Some of you might think the most terrifying part about collecting watches is perhaps something like, scratching it, or maybe breaking it, or perhaps getting it stolen. And while those are absolutely valid points, I want to raise another: negotiating prices. And yes, I hear those 10 people out there shouting like, what? No, I love it. But, I'm talking about the thousands of other people like myself who cannot think of anything more uncomfortable than negotiating prices of watches. I mean, believe it or not, when buying my most recent watch, a 1991 Cartier Santos, I had my first ever watch price negotiating experience. I was terrified and I was nervous and I was sweating a lot, but what's more important is I was successful. And I'm absolutely not a natural when it comes to negotiating or haggling, and being direct with people that I do not know is very uncomfortable for me. So I sat down, I did my research on how to negotiate watch prices, and that's why I am doing this video today. In this video, I'm going to share with you my best 5 tips on how to negotiate watch prices when buying pre-owned or from the secondary market in general. But those tips aren't for beginners only. I'm sure many experienced watch collectors out there are going to learn something here too. So the first point is a point that I know many people would think is a no-brainer, but it is also something a lot of people tend to forget or only do very half-heartedly, which can lead to a lot of frustration or losing out on a lot of money. But it's actually really simple. Do your homework. And by that I mean the following 2 things. First, you want to know as much as possible about the watch that you want to buy. I mean, duh, but actually really learn about all its quirks, its features, and things you should be aware of before buying it. I mean, take my Santos for example. Since this is a watch that has been around since 1904, there are a ton of different variations of that watch out there. So I had to make sure that I really knew which variation I wanted to go for, so I knew exactly what to do for the step number 2. So I decided on the following things. I wanted to get the lady size Santos, so the 29 to 34 millimeter with a quartz movement, and I wanted it to be from 1991, as that is my birth year. And I also wanted the classic Cartier dial with the blue sword hands, and it should have been recently serviced so that I do not have to bother with it in the foreseeable future. And so now that I was sure which variation I wanted and which boxes it should tick, it's time for part 2 of the homework, and that is researching the price range of your watch. I mean, yeah, this is obviously going to happen anyway because you have to check out the different offers and stuff. But I think it's important to mention that step within this sequence as the second step, as it not only builds up the knowledge, but also going to build up the confidence in you, which you will need for the following step, which I will get to in a minute. But yeah, really look through all the watches that check your boxes and see where they sit in terms of price. I like to use online marketplaces like Chrono24 or go to the websites of bigger watch dealers and see what they would price the watch at. And so that way you can get a good understanding of where the watch is priced, in which condition, and where you can start with your own price you want to suggest. So my next point number 3, seems a bit silly, but it really helped me, and I think it's going to help a lot of other people out there too, especially if you are feeling insecure about negotiations and easily fold under pressure like me. But now that you know how or where your watches lies in terms of its price range, it is time not only to decide on the maximum amount you are willing to pay for it, but also to write that number down. Really take a piece of paper and write it down. If you're only a little bit like me, you will find it difficult to stick to a certain price as soon as the opposite side questions your suggestions, because you are very uncomfortable with the feeling that you are putting someone else into a difficult position or spot, like you are somehow maliciously taking away money from someone, even though this is not the case at all. But if you write it down, so like set it in stone, I guess, you can put it in front of you for your next step, and I will guarantee you that you will find it so much more easier to stick to your set budget that way. In my case, I found in my research that the watch I wanted was priced in between 1,500 and 2,500 euro, depending on, the watch's location, its condition, if it's a full set or not. And so I decided to set myself a budget of 1,800 euro. And so I wrote that maximum amount I want to spend down on a piece of paper and proceeded to step number 4. So now you have done your research and you have set your budget. You wrote it down on a piece of paper, and now it is time to make the call or visit the store. I would always recommend to talk to the salesperson, well, directly in person instead of taking it up to email, as most people are uncomfortable with directness. You can use that to your advantage and talk to someone directly about your preferred price. And now all you have to do is ask the question. I know this is really uncomfortable. Been there, done that, but a few words can really save you a lot of money. You know, the good part is that with this question, you don't even have to be this like super hard negotiator that hammers down. When I thought about negotiating watch prices, I always imagined these like super, at least for me, uncomfortable scenes where you have to have this back and forth with different prices, but that doesn't have to be the case at all. At least not when you are a regular person like me who's just looking to buy a watch for themselves. So let me suggest a few ways to ask that question. So let's pretend I'm on the phone and, I'm asking for my Santos. I would suggest saying something along the lines of like, hey, my name is Jenny, and I'm really interested in buying that Santos you are offering on your website or in your store. It looks really good. I do have set myself a budget though, and it is slightly priced above it. Is there something we can do about that price? Or, some variation of that. And, the three possible answers from that salesperson to that would probably be something like this. They would either say A, well, sure, how about XYZ? And then they would, suggest a price a bit lower than the initial price from their offer. Or B, something like, okay, what do you have in mind? And then they would ask, for your suggestion. Or C, they would say no, and that this is not possible. Your answer to A and B would be quite similar, because chances are that the salesperson is still suggesting a price that is a bit above your maximum, or, well, ask you to suggest something. Now, to make things a bit easier for you to have your deal work out and have everyone walk away happy with the deal, I would suggest suggesting a price that sits a little bit below your maximum budget first. Obviously don't be disrespectful with your lowest price suggestion, which I don't think you are watching this right now are going to be anyways, but pick something you are a bit unsure of whether it would work or not, so you could meet each other, somewhere in the middle or at the top, which would still be within your budget anyways. And in case of C, so the salesperson just flat out saying no, you can try and mirror them. So for example, they say something like, I'm sorry, but lowering the price is impossible. You could reply with the last bit of the answer and stating it as a question back to them, like, impossible? It is going to feel very awkward at first, but trust me, mirroring works, and it is going to help you to get out more information so you can, continue negotiating. And if you want to learn more about those verbal techniques, I highly recommend checking out Never Split the Difference from Chris Voss, which I will link for you down below. It is really entertaining, but also very helpful. And it's especially a good thing for people who are not as confrontational. So people like me, basically. The last piece of advice or step I would like to share with you is something I personally really struggle with, and it's something that gets in the way of so many other people too. No matter if it's, just watch price negotiations or other things, even simpler stuff like deciding on what to have for dinner or asking for a favor or something like that. But no matter what, you have to learn to endure the silence during a negotiation, especially right after you have made your point or you have made your offer. You state your price and then you wait. Really wait for the answer. Do not make the same mistake I do most of the time. Try to fill in the awkward silence with noise. All you do is start to, explain yourself, and then you end up digging your own grave doing that. So just force yourself to wait for the other person's response. No matter how long it takes, you will undermine your own argument or price if you immediately start to explain yourself. I would also like to add another point after going through all of this, and that is my advice to not only to actually, be ready to buy when you make the call or go to the store, but also be ready to leave the table if a negotiation does not work out in the way you want it. If you and the salesperson find a price that works for both of you, given that you are still sticking to your set budget, then go for it. Respect the other person enough to not let them hanging and accept the deal. That being said, if you cannot agree on a number that's still within your budget, be honest enough to let them know and stand up from the table. There's no shame in saying, you know what, I'm sorry, but this is out of my budget still, so I won't be able to buy it. That way you do not waste your time or the salesperson's time, and you can continue looking for the right offer and the right watch for you. And that is basically it. The first time I tried it myself, I definitely was not perfect, but I did feel proud of myself for trying it. And it has also saved me a lot of money. I hope you have enjoyed this little bit of a different type of video. As a shy person myself, I wanted to share with you a bit of my experience and tips that I was able to find so that you can get the best price for your watches. It usually really just takes a simple little question and you will be able to save a lot of money that way. Just remember, stay respectful and friendly and open about your intentions. I can guarantee you the first time you manage to successfully ask for a discount, it is going to be such an amazing feeling. And that was it for this video today. I'd love to hear your experience on haggling or negotiating watch prices. Also, let me know if you have any more tips you want to share so we can read about all the good stuff in the comments down below, and I'm always more than willing to learn more about it. If you have enjoyed this video, you can give it a thumbs up, and if you want to see more videos like that, you can subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in my next one. Bye! See, even talking about it makes me nervous.